Hello, everyone. Welcome, YouTube. And I'm back with Paul Sutliff, and we're here to talk about the Cancer of Civilization Jihad. And this is our third episode. And one of the reasons I'm really happy to talk with Paul is that he was one of the first people to recognize what the Sharia was. He took a cue from me, he started to dive in, and he's been dedicating a lot of time over the last couple of years to that, for which I'm very grateful because it kind of validated me. I wasn't alone out there, swinging in the breeze. So, Paul, just briefly, what made, and also he's a great analytical thinker. He's an author. He's very methodical. He's thorough. His research and his results, what he shows is frightening, is disturbing. So very much well worth a listen. Paul, thank you. And what made you interested? I mean, what made you, just to repeat the same question as before, but what made you realize Sharia was important and made you pursue this? And then, you know, where many others did not and ignored it and just stuck with it with the standard narrative or the Quran and Hadiths.
When I first read Sharia, I only got a little ways in and I felt like vomiting. They started to justify having sex with children, and still that section still makes me want to vomit. And then I went through it. I pretty much read the whole thing, and then just, you know, sometimes you have to let things stew. But then I'm listening to your talks, and we're talking about how you had to give a discussion on how Sharia could possibly be more influential than the Quran. Well, the truth is, the modern Muslims I'm meeting, not very many Muslims know the Quran because they say they're not allowed to read it unless they know Arabic. And the studies are that only 20% at the minimum, or at the maximum, understand Arabic in written form. Oh, we have a problem here. If 80% of the Muslims can't read the Quran, we're in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
And that's actually one of the
Why
topics.
don't they want to read it in English? Is there something wrong with the English version, Paul?
It doesn't matter what language, it could be Indonesian or whatever. They're scared that you might actually hear the truth about how badly written the Quran is how I'm looking at it. Or you might discover there's a good possibility it wasn't written until a few centuries after Muhammad was dead.
Some should never do such a thing, Paul. They'd never make up stories about Muhammad being a part of Allah, with Allah, before the beginning of time, before the earth was created. They'd never make up stories about how Jesus was made from the light of Muhammad and all the prophets were taken from a piece of Muhammad's pure spirit and then fashioned into humans, and that the spirit of Jesus, Abraham, Moses, David, Paul, you name them, were all actually just pieces, small, tiny fragments of Muhammad's light, spirit, wisdom, and knowledge. They'd never say things like that.
Oh, you quote them quite well.
Yeah, no, amazing. And then tell me what made you write books? I mean, how did you get into writing books? Because it's just interesting to repeat for the audience, but also just for me, because I have a memory like what's that thing that thing's I have a
Sieve,
memory like that
a
thing.
sieve, you put water through and it falls through.
Yeah,
Yeah, well,
I've
I'm
got
in
a
the
memory
same
like
boat
that.
when it comes to Islamic names. I can't keep them in my head. But actually started writing my first book was because I was talking with oh my gosh, it's a ways back. I was talking with an expert on what was happening in Civilization Jihad in the United States, and he said to me, "You need to write a book." Ryan Morrow.
Yes, I follow him
So
on Twitter.
Ryan Morrow said to me, "You need to write a book." Well, I wrote a little bitty book, and I shared it with him, and then he says, "You didn't write the book," because I called it Stage 2 Infiltrate American Colleges. And he says, "You didn't write." Well, he wanted me to write a book on the International Institute of Islamic Thought. I wrote to Ryan and I says, "Look, Ryan, you're the one who has military training. You're the one who has the background in this stuff. I am not brave enough to go to the places I need to do. In fact, standing in front of one of these guys who we both determined, actually many of us determined, who was the head of the Muslim Brotherhood in the United States, was scary because he was connected to Al Qaeda, he was connected to Hamas, Palestinian Islamic Jihad. I can't name a terrorist group that wasn't connected to him. And I would have to interview him to do the book. Sorry. My background was a public school teacher, worked for the government a little bit, but never in the place where I had to no offensive type stuff. And that just wouldn't work. I just wasn't ready for it.
Funny,
So
Ryan Moreau, he actually follows me on Twitter. He actually started following me about 10 days ago. And I was quite surprised that he did so voluntarily. So, and would he be willing to maybe come on the channel and talk in the future? Do you think that would be a possibility?
I think he'd enjoy it. I think you and he would be agreement in many areas. I like him. I just don't always agree with him. I think he's more.
I think he
in the
seems
middle
like a little bit of a
sometimes.
contentious fellow. I mean, you get that impression. He's very, I mean, his experiences, his background, he's with a polarizing figure, but I mean, he certainly is in the fight. He's committed to the fight,
Yeah.
I believe.
My biggest issue with him was when he did when they did he did a story on Nazareth College, which I brought to him, and he never gave me any credit for that when he did write a story up on them. Like,
Okay.
I was the one who exposed it, and then he wrote it in a story a year later and never gave me any credit for it. That's the only thing I had with it. I like a lot of his work. Unfortunately, Clarion Project and Middle East Forum do not recognize Islam as the enemy. And that, I think, is difficulty. He's no longer with Clarion Project, so maybe he's starting to strike out on his own. Maybe he does now see Islam as a problem. I don't know.
Okay, so just briefly again, just like a one-word summary, towards in one sentence. What is his main focus then, and what does he dismiss Islam as?
I haven't. I'm not sure right now because I haven't been following his material as of late.
Okay, that's cool. Well, I mean, yeah. So, yeah, but your material is disturbing. I mean, the conclusions that you've reached, given the evidence. I mean, just the pieces of evidence alone sum up the problem. And when you assemble it all together, it's just a mountain of evidence. It's not like the individual pieces you've been feeding us are, you go like, I wonder if that could have any meaning. I can't seem to determine any validity to this for any. It's like it's in your face. And when you have like 30, 40 of those things, you're like, okay, this is gonna ruin our day.
Well, this topic today I have for today is how is slavery legal in Islamic social norms today? That should be
Right.
enough to scare anyone.
Yeah, why isn't the Muslim Brotherhood banned in the USA? That is a question because the Muslim Brotherhood was very well ensconced in the US government under George W. Bush, and then following that, with sadly, I think it was under the George W. Bush presidency that they really got momentum, and then of course they just remained in power under Obama, who accelerated that. But yeah, they bought. I mean, they bought out the Bushes to the tune of at least $1.5 billion.
I would say go to paulsutliff.blogspot.com, look up on the right, you'll see a whole bunch of keywords, look up my resolution. And you will find a resolution I wrote to ban the Muslim Brotherhood within the United States. However, it's a joint resolution. It will not create a law. It creates the effect of law. It has the force of law, but it is not law. And it just recognizes that the Muslim Brotherhood within the United States has declared war on the United States. If they recognize that, that forces the alphabet soup agencies to go to work and to get them out if they're not from this country. And
What would we want? Look, Islam, and it's acknowledged. I mean, it's well-known fact. It's established. For instance, Islam mandates death for apostasy. This violates every Western law known to man. It violates our moral fiber. It violates our cultural fabric. Why would we want to permit an ideology that has this as part of its structure, inherent structure, into our countries? Why would we want them to practice? Why would we permit this? It makes no sense.
I'm sorry, I missed what you just said.
No, Islam mandates, for instance, death for apostasy.
Yes.
This is an undeniable part of Islam. It's factual. We know this. This is not a rumor or a rumor of a rumor. Why would we thus want something as barbaric and literally murderous as that to be permitted in Western culture when it violates our laws, our morals, every concept of our culture?
I want to answer the foolishness that's being put in here, Christian nationalism, just so you know. Christian nationalism, well, Christianity is a religion. It is a faith structure. Nationalism is something that has to do with your country. Why you're creating this new terminology, Christian nationalism, as if nationalism is something new or Christianity is something new, I feel sorry for you. But nationalism is love of your country. Is there anything wrong with loving your country? I'm sorry, there's nothing wrong with loving where you live. There's
If I
nothing wrong.
can,
I
if I
feel
can
sorry
add
for
to
you to
that,
think that.
if I can add to that, the whole concept of demonizing nationalism, of patriotism, began after World War II, right? Because Hitler obviously was very patriotic and very nationalistic. However, that was one, based on mythology, because it was Gnostic, was based on mythology, based on fictional past, and two, it was based on Darwinism, which was scientific racism and eugenics. This was social Darwinism, and this is not Darwin's cousin. Darwin's cousin learned social Darwinism from Darwin. Darwin was a social Darwinist. His whole family were involved in the eugenics movement. So anyway, the whole point is, one, morality was just do the opposite of what the Nazis did, which was don't be patriotic and don't be nationalistic. However, the socialists were very, very embarrassed that a socialist, a non-Marxist socialist, that was the distinction between the Russians and the fascists and the Nazis, was they were the one side was Marxist, the other side was non-Marxist, but they were both socialist. Were very embarrassed by these socialists who put socialism in a very bad light, and they wanted to disassociate themselves. But the simple fact is that they simply tried to conflate nationalism, love of country, pride in country, national unity, with a hatred of the other. And so they try to say that being a nationalist means you're a Nazi. So when they call you a nationalist, they try to claim that you're a Nazi, which is not true, because Nazism was based on very specific ideologies, but someone who loves country. So if they can make you hate your country, they can make you dissolve your borders. Remember, those who can make you believe in what's the phrase? What's the quote? Those who can make you believe in what's it? Foolishness can make you commit atrocities. What's that quote, Paul?
I don't know that one.
No, those who can make you believe in absurdities can make you commit atrocities.
Yes. So I put the blog. So somebody asked where the website was that I was referring to. You can
I'll get it up to you.
paulsutliff.blogspot.com.
You need to kill your tab.
Oh, it's echoing?
Yes. You need to mute your tab.
Yeah, I will fix that. All right. We'll try this. That any better?
Say something, Lloyd. Okay.
All right. Okay. So the question is this is one of the chapters in my book. Is slavery legal in Islamic social norms today? And the sad, sorry truth, yes. I wish it wasn't, but you have to go straight to the Quran, find out what this means. Surah 23, 1-6. Certainly, will the believers have succeeded? They who are during their prayer humbly submissive, and they who turn away from ill speech, and they who are observant of zakah, and they who guard their private parts except from their wives or those their right hand possesses, for indeed they will not be blamed. Now, those whom their right hand possesses is a direct reference to slaves. That's according to Quran X. Again, from their source. This is from Ibn Abbas. They notice the word slaves and the right hand possesses is put together. So it's not me making the claim, it's their authorities, their Islamic scholars saying that's what that means. So I'm not making this stuff up. It's right there. It's for everybody to see. And I just took this picture today. And this is, you think about that. We got Surah 33:52. Not lawful to you, O Muhammad, are any additional women after this? Well, let's see now. How many wives did he have? He went above the limit. Okay, because he can do whatever he wants. He can have sex with any woman he wants, according to this, according to their scriptures. Any additional women after this, nor is it for you to exchange them for other wives, even if their beauty were to please you, except for what your right hand possesses. Again, these are sex slaves that Muhammad had. Think about this. and ever is Allah. Or just there is constant references to those their right hand possesses. Again, these are sex slaves, and where do they get these sex slaves? Where do they get the slaves? The Hadiths say this about Islamic slavery. Umar said, I came and beheld Allah's apostle was staying on Mashroba, the attic room, and a black slave of Allah's apostle was at the top of its stairs. I said to him, tell the prophet that here is Umar bin al-Khattab asking for permission to enter. Then he admitted me. Here we have another slave. Allah's messenger was on a journey. He had a black slave called Anjasha, and he was driving the camels very fast, and there were women riding on those camels. Allah's messenger said, "May, why, Anjasha, drive slowly the camels with the glass vessels, the women." And this is from Bukhari. These two passages are from Bukhari. Keep thinking. I mean, this is not. This is the one I was going to show, but can I'll just
share the screen with audio.
Yeah, I'll come back and do that one more time here. All right. Here we go. Oops, I did it wrong. Okay, let's try this one more time. I think this screen is really important. Oops, I pushed the wrong button every time. I got to get used to this. All right.
فقلت شنو قانون الجواري؟ فقالوا قانون الجواري يعني قال المفتي قانون الجواري إن لازم تكون دولة مسلمة غازية، دولة مسيحية أو دولة غير ليست على دين الإسلامي، وأسرى، يعني لازم يكون أسرى حرب. يعني قلت هل هو حرام؟ قال لا، بالدين مو حرام. الجواري ليس بالدين حرام، بالعكس الجارية قانونها غير عن قانون الحرة. الحرة عورتها كلها إلا وجهها ويدها، أما الجارية من السرة وتحت، يعني تختلف جدا عن الحرة. والحرة لازم بعقد زواج، وهذا الجارية لا، فقط يشتريها وخلاص كأنه يعني تزوجها، فتختلف الجارية عن الحرة. فش اسمه طبعا هم كذلك هنا بالكويت سألت ناس مختصين متدينين وهذا، فقالوا لي صح مشكلة استغفر الله يا ربي الرجل أو الرجل على دين، يعني مو إلا ملتزم حيل، يعني كل رجل سوي بدينه يعني ويكون عنده خير. الحل الوحيد إنه لازم يكون عنده يعني إذا لا يريد أن يأتي النساء بالحرام، يعني إذا كان يعني مبتلى بالفتنة، إنه يعني هذا هو الموضوع، إنه يعني
I think this is disgusting. The fact that they would say that the only way for a Muslim man to avoid illegal relations, I say illegal things that violate Sharia, is to own sex slaves.
Well, don't forget, she said legal, because in Islam there's no moral and immoral. There is legal and illegal, and through legal footwork you can change something that's illegal into legal and vice versa.
They are very, very close. Islam is very, very close to the Übermensch belief of Nietzsche, and this is where Islam and Nazis get along well together. Am I on a delay?
No.
Okay. Just the picture, I guess.
Sorry, give me a second. My bad. No, were you sharing something or something?
No, I'm just wondering because I'm watching my picture go slow. All right. This is
yeah, villainous is the only way to prevent it, to prevent sinners to legalize it. And that's what some Gnostics did. So instead of, you just make it legal and it's not a sin anymore. It's like, okay.
Trying to get us, I think I'm just a second. I want to share one more thing here I got, and I'm just trying to get this to work, and here we go. I'm going to share a screen of something I found about Islam, just so people who think I'm nuts can see what About Islam put out, and it's on their website today. I think sometimes we just need to share what Muslims are saying to other Muslims. And here we go. This is kind of scary. I mean, this is right off their site. As you can see, it's called About Islam. And let me just make life easier so you can see the whole screen. All right. It says, sex with slaves, what's the deal? And just this was a question written in 2019. What would be the judgment for a man who commits zina with his female slave? In one hadith, I've read that a man called his brother and said, take custody of your newborn son from this female slave. He took the newborn son to the prophet, who examined the baby and said, it's your son. He said, I was shocked to read this. This is all that the prophet had to say to a man who had sexual intercourse with his slave. Why didn't he accuse him of zina? Did the prophet have no objections regarding unwed slave mothers? I hear that if a slave gets pregnant of her master's child and gives birth, then she is free, and her son is free. Is this the solution? A man having sex with a free woman is a sinner, but the one doing this with a slave is not a wrongdoer? I mean, he asked a lot of questions, and he says, isn't four wives enough in here? But here's the answer. Look how short it is. I mean, this answer is just, that's it. A female slave was under the right hand of her master, and he was allowed to sleep only with whoever was under his ownership. This was considered an indirect or special wedlock. It's not wedlock. They're lying through their teeth. It's slavery. I'm sorry.
In fact, slavery falls in the Sharia under commerce. It's business. It's commerce.
Yes.
It's trade. It's goods.
Yeah, exactly. And then they go on. They say the relationship itself was within boundaries and involved rights and responsibilities. Okay. As you own somebody. Okay. That's what this is all about, ownership. And it's not adultery is what they're saying, because you own them. They're a physically owned entity. And this is just, it should bother people. I mean, there's a lot more audio and video out there that I can share on this. I want people to actually go look this up. Go to memory.org. I was surprised this week because I was looking for this debate that I put into the book. And it was a discussion. And for some reason, Pakistan has taken the discussion down. I think it's because they got a lot of interest in it, because it was revealing the Muslim love of the war in Israel, where they were thinking they could go in, the Muslims could go in and they could sell the Jews that they took captive. Oh, because the Muslims in the debate were like, yeah, we go into Israel, we kidnap during wartime, we have a war, we take as many as we can kidnap and as captive, and we sell them as slaves. Oh, I'd love to have a slave. And that discussion is in the book, but right now the video is no longer available. I found that fascinating.
Wow.
This is let me see if I just, there was just pieces in here that got I had a good laugh with this when I was looking at it, and I like, how can people actually get away with thinking like this? And you have to, I think you have to be more primitive in your thoughts than most of us are.
I mentioned to people before that third world thinking, third world ideas are often alien to the first world. So in the first world, when you come across an idea that's irrational, you would go, well, logically speaking, I need to reject A and accept B because reasons. Whereas if you're in the third world, you were not raised on a diet of Aristotelian logic and non-contradictory logic, and syncretizing ideas that are completely incompatible is just Tuesday.
Now, I'm going to share this one more video. This will make you think. We call this guy Pikachu. Sorry, Daniel Pikachu. His nickname is Pikachu because of his name, but it kind of fits. apostate prophet caught this, and I'm sharing it through him. It's just, this is sick. And let me just play this. All right.
I'm arguing that Sharia law is superior to human rights because Sharia rule preserves marriage and family. So Harris, you want to criticize Islam and call Islam barbaric for having slavery, but imagine if I asked you this question. Do you support using weapons in war? Do you support using guns to shoot people or swords to stab people and kill people? Do you support that? Because all of that is violent. All of that is barbaric. Presumably, you'd say, yeah, of course I support weapons and killing, because how else are you going to fight war and defend yourself? Well, that's exactly the point with slavery. In the pre-modern period, you couldn't have war without slavery any more than you could have war without weapons and killing. In other words, if killing people can sometimes be justified, then slavery can also sometimes be justified. You should just acknowledge that slavery could be completely justified in certain circumstances, which, by the way, are the circumstances people have lived in for 99% of human history. Now, if you want to argue that Islam requires enslaving people today, I would say that that is not correct. It depends on the imam. The imam has the option to pardon people and forego taking slaves in war. So in modern times, a hypothetical imam could exercise this option and still be 100% consistent with the most strict understanding of traditional Islamic law. You could respond to me and say, well, Daniel, fine, slavery could be justified in the past, but now with modern technology, modern weapons, clearly slavery could never be justified. That means Islamic rules regarding slavery are not justifiable in our modern context, which means at least one aspect of Islamic law is obsolete. And if one aspect of Islamic law is obsolete due to modern technology, then why not all of Islamic law? But the response to this is simple. Which is the better world? One with the constant threat of nukes and constant terrorizing of the world's poor people with trillion-dollar weapons programs? In light of these modern technological horrors, the practice of Islamic slavery actually seems a far better alternative in the context of war, even if it were practiced today. Now, let me get to the point about sex slavery.
I'm just going to drop that. That's just like, this guy's a sick, and whoever said he was a pedo, they were exactly right.
Yeah. No, I mean, well, let me just show this on the screen. This is from the Sharia, from the Alliance. So they say here, whoever enters Islam before being captured may not be killed. So you can kill captives, which goes against the what's it, was that the Nuremberg regular laws or something like that?
Yes.
Of war. And then all his property confiscated, all his young children taken captive. So here they're speaking of murder, theft, and enslaving children. And when a child or a woman is taken captive, they become slaves by the fact of capture, and the woman's previous marriage is immediately annulled. This is a violation of anything that is holy and all human rights and all civilization. And
Bill Skykes got it right. He said
right?
Geneva Convention. I was saying Nuremberg, but yeah.
The Geneva Convention. Yes, you are right. Correct. And when an adult male is taken captive, the caliph considers the interests of Islam and the Muslims. He decides between the prisoner's death, slavery, release without paying anything, or ransoming him. So, commerce again. Elizabeth, if you can please stick to the topic. I am well aware of most of these things, and you are spamming with mostly off-topic comments. If you could just stick to the topic, if you could, rather than going on your own particular narrative, stick closer to where we are, please. Yeah.
So this is kind of scary stuff as a whole, because to think about a group that allows slavery today. Well, this week, that's what I'll bring up. This past week, there was an actual mission by the United States and Israel, and they freed, guess what? A Yazidi that was found, that was sold to a member of Hamas. And let me just pull this. I'll share this article. I'll read the summary, but I just want people to understand this. I'll read the summary of this, and I'll just put this up here. And let me just get the screen shared. I'm just happy. This was in the New York Post. and go away. All these little pop-ups as I just like want to keep coming, and I don't want them. All right. This is I want people to understand this is still happening today. These things are happening just
there's
as
more slavery today than there was 200 years ago.
Oh yeah, that's true. I mean, look at the date on this. October 3rd, Yazidi girl Fawza Amin Sido, taken as ISIS slave at age 11 and held by Hamas for 10 years, is rescued by Israeli troops in Gaza. Oh. So slavery is still going on in Islamic countries, people. 10 years, they knew she was a slave, all right, through U.S. intelligence and through Israel. This poor girl was set free. Now, let me just read a little summary of what I've said on this. New York Post reported a young hostage kidnapped by ISIS terrorists, age 11, held by Hamas for a decade, been released in Gaza after a months-long operation by the U.S. She was freed earlier this week. She's now 21 years old, with footage showing her embracing her family. Always, again, a Yazidi girl kidnapped by ISIS from Iraq, brought to Gaza at 11 years old. So they sold her. So my question is, you want to know why? If you remember, when they started talking about where are the kidnapped people, and the head of Hamas was saying, I don't know. They sold them. If they're still alive, they sold them. I'm surprised they have found anyone. And this is part of Islamic commerce. It is in the commerce section, which I am going through. There is a great love of Islam hidden in the Arabic, not translated into the English. And that is mind-numbing.
Yeah, the fact that they would want to hide that. I mean, it's shocking. Also, it's been removed from the Reliance, but you can find it in the Hidayah. It covers a significant portion of the Hidayah. So
I have another brief topic we could go into. This one I think gets people. And here's the question. Is there ethnic prejudice giving Arab superiority within Islam? Now, I find this question rather shocking in the fact that it's something I never expected. So, I just asking questions about Islam, and you find these discussions by Muslims asking this question. And what they're quietly doing on the internet is deleting these topics. Even on Islamic sites, they're getting rid of them. So this is problematic. And I'm noticing things are disappearing. I'm watching, but let's think about this. And I think I already mentioned this. When you start looking at the percentages of stats, can Muslims read Arabic? This is something I wrote, but again, I'm still finding this problem today. I mean, I tried finding the stats of what percentage of Muslims can read Arabic. Try typing that into your Google search. You won't find the answer.
I've read it's at most 15%. I mean, that's the number I've been working with.
And I think it's actually less than that, because we got to talk about who can read classical Arabic. And that's the other issue, because most Muslims can't even, who are Arabic, don't understand classical Arabic. And I think that's another issue altogether. You can get somewhere, but you can't. You have difficulty. And I know people who read the Quran, that's the other issue. 15% may be generous. And we're being generous here when we're saying 20%. And if we give it that way, does that mean 20%? Those Arabs, I'm just picking on Arabs. Is there superiority given to them? Well, if you can read Arabic, does it make sense if that's the
Allah
only
only
you're
accepts
allowed to read it?
worship in Arabic. Remember, He only accepts your prayers in Arabic. So if you pray in another language, Allah doesn't hear you.
So what does that say to those people who are praying in a language they don't understand? I find that mind-numbing. I could not do that. You couldn't pay me to do
Because
that.
Allah is very bad with languages and not very smart. Does it tell us Allah is not very smart and doesn't do well with
I
languages?
think that means Allah is not the creator of different languages. So who is? This is pretty sad statement on little Allah. But here we go. The Hadiths give Muslim Arabs superiority. This it says the messenger of Allah said, indeed, Allah has chosen Ismail from the children of Ibrahim, and he chose Banu Kanaya from the children of Ismail, and he chose the Quraysh from the Banu Kanaya, and he chose the Banu Hashim from Quraysh, and he chose me from Banu Hashim. I mean, very, very ethnic superiority type thing. So that's one hadith. There's another one. It says word for word, pretty much the same thing. And this is from Sahih Muslim. Well, I feel sorry for them that they don't know these things. For Muslims that don't know that they have such they love to put Arabs on a pedestal. It's pretty much doctrine. And I think that should be shocking. It should bother everyone who is a Muslim that this is done. But it is part of their belief structure. There you'll find people who go to, if you actually went on that nice little Hajj and you saw all these people they were black, they were all different ethnicities, but they're supposed to defer to anyone who's Arab. Yeah. This is kind of mind-numbing. Again, we have it here. Al-Abbas came to the messenger of Allah, and as it is, he heard something. So the prophet stood upon the minbar and said, "Who am I?" He said, "You are the messenger of Allah." He said, "I am Muhammad," and again, he's talking about how he was created. "I am Muhammad bin Abdullah bin Abdul Muttalib. Indeed, Allah created the creation, and he put me in the best group." Oh, again, this is pushing the concept of Arab superiority. I think Darcy's right. Yep. Because if these are the scriptures, I'm now of the opinion that they were probably all created about the same time. 8th century is my belief. But
And Usama and Saint Murad all confirm that the Arabic in the Quran is very ungrammatical. It's really bad Arabic.
yeah, it's something we discuss a lot, and I'm having some fun with the fact plurals mean 3. So when Allah refers to himself as a plural, I want you to think about this. Is he approving the Trinity? Something to throw back. All right, let's go back to the topic. This one. Now, I'm having a problem finding, again, once you start looking at this topic, you're going to find stuff starts to disappear. And even archive.org is down today. I don't know what's going on, but
they've been deleting books. They just deleted 500,000 books last month, and they are deleting books by the ton right now. So in other words, archives are disappearing off archive.org. We're losing books at a rapid rate. So someone is pressuring them to delete the past, and that is actually pretty scary.
It is. Wow, that is very much 1984, Fahrenheit 451. Yeah.
Yep.
This comes from one of those books, one of those sites. The fact that Allah Most High has chosen the Arabs over other nations is affirmed and rigorously authenticated hadiths. The Prophet, may somebody bless him, but he needs some blessings if he's in hell, I guess. I don't know if he can bless someone. Yeah. He said, on the authority of he said, I heard the messenger of Allah, may Allah bless him, grant him peace. Verily, Allah has chosen Kana. Again, you see this whole passage being repeated. He's chosen me from the Bani Hashim. All right. How about this one? Sheikh al-Islam Ibn Hajar al-Haytami and others on the topic of Arab superiority. He says, therefore, the preference of Arabs over other nations and the preference of some Arabs over other Arabs is affirmed in the sacred law. Allah has even preferred some months over other months and some days. This is just Why push this concept? Because in order for them to have to read the Quran in Arabic, you have to push Arab superiority. And they kind of
and
go
Islam is
together.
really just Arab supremacism.
I tracked this because I was seeing it and I wasn't sure, if it was approved in there. I actually had no clue when I started researching this one. I didn't expect to find it backed up by their scriptures. And when I started reading Muslim discussion pages on this topic, and I see them agreeing on this topic, I'm like, whoa, what's going on here? Why is this so easy to agree on? Why are they saying that this is a fact or not? They were asking serious questions. And
This is Islamic virtue. I downloaded this website
Yes.
some time ago, and this is it from the website called Islamic Virtues, and it's about the superiority of the race of the
that
Arabs
is the one I'm talking about. That is the very article I'm talking about.
over non-Arabs. And I downloaded this to my hard drive, so I have a copy on my drive in case it ever disappears. I do that with some of these. So I have
Well, I'm
software
going to
that I
have
just
to start doing that.
Yeah, so they speak about it, eminence. This is how these Muslims interpret this, and he made me from the best of them, the Arabs. So yeah, so I mean, this is when they speak of apartheid. Yeah, then Islam, I guess, fits that bill really well. And I can say, as a South African, that sometimes apartheid didn't fit the bill of apartheid as blacks in America love to describe it, or as Palestinians or Muslims love to describe apartheid. Yeah, so.
What is this? I mean, this is the thing that bothers me here is this is considered normal and it's accepted and it's considered, I guess we would, in the Western world, we would consider this offensive as a whole. Kind of get where Asians have this ethnocentrism about them. That's kind of historic. But this is made a matter of religiosity or political belief structure, because I really can't see Islam as religious as much as I see it as political. Just to think that that's part of their political belief structure, is part of their law, this becomes problematic. So now if you are Arab, you're given superiority, you might not be charged with the same crime as somebody else. If you get charged with the same crime, you might get less time because you're superior. Islam Q&A. This is from today that I got this. This guy writes, I'm very confused about the position of Arabs over other races in Islam. The Prophet himself said that Arab is not better than a non-Arab. Yet I've also heard that Arabs as a whole have been given a superiority over other races. Take a look at their quick answer down here. We need to show respect on account that the fact that they are the same race as Nabi. Oh, Nabi, the word prophet. Oh, it's incompatibility between an Indian and a Zulu. Really? So they're saying, this is just, I mean, talk about racism. And they're the ones, saying they're putting in racism. It's just kind of mind-numbing that this is in here. I'm just doing a little bit extra research before the show, and I'm finding this stuff. It's just shocking.
Wow.
Yeah. I don't know how much time we have left. This
I
one,
mean, this is the complete opposite of the gospel, where there's no, which stated there's no Jew, no Gentile, no male, no female, which wasn't an endorsement of wokery or transgenderism. It simply meant equality in dignity, equality in terms of the acceptance of your worship. So this was, do not make distinctions. Unity was more important than division. Whereas Islam, there makes a clear division.
And this also could send a message, like we talk about in the Western world, how you want to stop things from being united and stop things from moving forward, cause division. Well, Islam started with division. They don't want unity except for the concept of Muslim unity. And there's never any true unity in Islam if you have superiority of one group over another. So this is actually a statement about the coming failure of Islam, the inevitable failure of Islam, because you can't survive. This is why they're constantly at war and killing each other.
But it also says that they won't integrate. They don't integrate, which tells you. And this also is why you see so many Sayyids, because everyone's trying to be part of the family lineage of Islam, of Muhammad. So everyone's a Sayyid. I mean, which is 99% fake anyway. But this is just what they want, so they can claim some kind of lineage and give themselves some legitimacy. Tribal supremacism. That's actually a good point.
I see this as a huge issue. The reality is sometimes more horrible. Next, I put in, are women considered less than equals under Islamic social norms? This is pretty simple. I like Dr. Phyllis Chesler. I've had a chance to interview her a couple of times. She said the plight of both men and women in the Islamic world, and increasingly in Europe, requires a sober analysis of reality and a heroic response. World events have made feminism more important, yet at the same time, feminism has lost much of its power. To my horror, most Western academics and mainstream feminists have not focused on what I call gender apartheid in the Islamic world, or in its steady penetration of Europe. Now, I would tell you she's probably what you would consider a true feminist, because she's for all women, and she is not for, let's pretend that this stuff is not happening in Islam. Because a true feminist doesn't care where the problem is.
Most of them are just, 99% of feminists just seem to be man-hating communists anyway, and hypocrites. Because you do not see them speaking up. Very, very few of them, if any, speak up about women's rights in Iran.
I don't understand. This is one of the things it was one thing to read her book when I started listening to some of the stuff she said. And I read her book and I interviewed her about her own personal life and her own encounters. And I was just kind of surprised how this is a very personal thing for her. She did marry a Muslim and found out there was much deceit and how women were treated much differently, found out the hard way. At one point, her passport was taken from her, and she was a second-class citizen because she was simply female. And I want you to, people don't realize how much of a reality this is. And I do recommend the book, Islamic Gender Apartheid, if you're asking any questions about what I'm saying. I think this woman is fantastic. She is a little more senior than I am. I'm not sure she's still with us, but she is an outstanding professional in this field. She pointed out, she points this out, Quran 2:282. And she says, you need to look at this. And I'm just going to read the stuff in the red here. It says, so if there were not two men, it's talking about you have to have a witness, all right? You have to have a witness for a contract. Okay. So if there were not two men, so one man and two women of those among you who are pleased for witnesses, so that if one of them should make an error, the other one may cause her to remember. Well, the women aren't bright enough to remember anything on their own. Is that what they're saying? They don't have the brain capacity. They don't have the brain power. Apparently, they don't. Muhammad didn't know the women I know. I know some women are far more intelligent. And you and I were just talking about Clara Lopez, one of these great intelligent people. No, I don't know who he's hanging with. Maybe he's hanging with people that are there. They must defer to him. But again, if this is written hundreds of years after Mo supposedly existed, maybe, again, we're talking about somebody else who's thinking this way. I don't know.
Yeah. The thing is, I've spoken about this in the past, the perception of women within Islam, and it parallels or echoes that of certain Gnostic sects. There was definitely within Gnosticism, there was a very poor view of women. So Muhammad says that women are the majority of those in hell. Women corrupt, people around them, etc. And Gnostics held the very same views, and they said that women are the ones who are sucked into the vortex, and are unclean and so on. So there's very much echoes within Gnosticism that parallel that within Islam. So I think that the ideas come from there.
I look at this, asking the question, trying to find the answers, trying to find, I mean, my whole purpose with this book is to say, ask these questions, go look at the Islamic scriptures, find out if it's there, and then I want you to go take a look at the news, see if this stuff is reflected in the news. If you're seeing it in the news, maybe we need to go back and ask more questions, because if it's in the scriptures, maybe we should wake up and say, hey, this is a problem. They don't want to be in our society if they want these things, or they want
they want to replace our society. The replacement is not just about population replacement, but cultural replacement. In fact, the term genocide refers to ethnic cleansing, which is removal, not necessarily killing, but also refers to cultural replacement. Eradicating a culture is also genocide. Replacing it with another culture, language, that is also genocide. Technically, the term for killing people is democide. So genocide is erasure of a culture. This is something we're seeing. And democide is when they actually physically bring out the weapons and the mass graves.
And what are they going to do? I mean, here you've already shared the scriptures, the Sharia, where they're going to, if you take over a country, now they can kill off your men. They can take your wives and your children captive and make them their slaves. This is what they did in Iraq and Syria. God knows why so many countries. Oh, wait a minute. Were they Islamic countries? No, they were non-Muslim countries who decided to take them in. Muslims running from the area. Wait a minute. Were they fearing persecution? No. Were they Muslim men who were military age? Yeah. Was this a hijra, or was this... What were they running from? Again, it was the women who had to fear being treated this way. We've got to start asking these questions, and we don't. And that's the reason why I think that these topics are so important. Are we willing to lose everything?
Look, if our government is going to let us down, if our politicians are going to betray us, what you do find, though, is that the groundswell, the people, as the word gets out, as people voice what is not spoken, and that becomes louder and louder, that then eventually even the government has difficulty standing against that wave of sentiment as you build that. And eventually people become ungovernable and things start to shift. And I think this is what we can do as individuals. We can speak about these issues. We can give voice to the frustrated thoughts of those who are silenced. And, they speak of a silent majority, but look, there's a great silenced majority. But we have opportunity now to speak, so I think we should just speak, and I think this will snowball. And eventually, you realize that these people in power are actually the minority, and they really should fear the majority, because we're the sleeping giant, and I think we can wake up that sleeping giant.
I think if you want to live under Sharia, go home to whatever country you think is the best place to live that is run by Sharia. Please go live there.
Yeah.
If you're female, I challenge you to try and live there, and then say you have as many freedoms as you do where you live currently.
Yeah.
It won't last.
These people don't make
You'll
sense.
be home soon. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, there's a comment here. People should take notes from Poland on how to deal with these heretics. Before I tried to buy a property here in Poland, I had a very different view of the country after trying to buy a property here. And basically, when the Polish government and the financial institutions tied me over a barrel and gave it to me up the ass without Vaseline, I have a slightly different view now. So there's a lot that Poland does right, but yeah, from my perspective, at least as an immigrant, yeah, there's a few things that it might want to fix. So maybe they're a little bit too enthusiastic in treating legal immigrants like myself as on a not too different scale to illegal immigrants. Just so by the way, it's a very sensitive topic with me right now.
I think, just speaking on women, again, looking at women, I think a good many people that are here I know Darcy, and I know many other women who like their freedoms. What will we do? I mean, if we allow Islam to take over, where will your wives be next? Where will your children be next? And Islam has already defined that. It's in their law. This is their end goal. And this is why the title for the book, which came to me first before the book got written, The Cancer of Civilization Jihad. This is a plan.
Agreed.
It's a horrible, horrible plan.
Mm-hmm. We can stop it. I believe just by speaking about it, making it public, be too loud to be heard. Be that grain of sand that grinds their gears. One grain of sand maybe doesn't do a whole lot, but you know what? A few of those, and those gears start to grind. Just be that grain of sand that turns into an avalanche. Grind those gears, bring them to a halt. I think just speaking about these issues, and remember, we can say, well, look, we don't have the majority, we don't have billions of dollars. Great. You know what? Jesus did his work with 11 people, right? He only needed 11. And there's more than 11 of us on the stream right now. We can do this. Those are my thoughts. Paul, I'll leave the last word to you as we wind down.
I'll say, find your local politician, send them this book, The Cancer of Civilization Jihad. Send it to them. Maybe they'll wake up. That's my biggest hope. Not necessarily the book sales, but all I want is for people to actually wake up and see that, again, this is reality. The research in there, it took me between 2 and 3 years to write the book.
That's a long time.
I probably could have done it quicker, but the truth is I needed to swallow some things and take some time thinking about what I was reading and doing the research. Is just some of that stuff is scary to think that this stuff is on the way.
Yeah. No, but yeah, look, I'm glad you're doing it. I mean, I'm glad to talk to you about these issues. I'm trying to do not just the Quran, the Hadiths, but also talk about topical issues, social, educational, cultural, political, military, whatever the case might be, because these are important. And we need to be involved in what's happening in our communities. We need to speak up. If we're being let down by the media, by governments, we need to do something about it. We need to speak honestly and truthfully. So this is what I hope we can do by talking about these things factually, painful and difficult and unpleasant as they are. We need to be as honest and factual as possible. We bring the receipts, we bring the facts, we bring the evidence. So yeah, and I think this has to be a groundswell from the bottom up if it's not going to come from the top down. So guys, thank you. That's it from me. I'll call it a night here. And tomorrow I'm on with Usama Dakdok. That's going to be a very interesting conversation. So please check the channel for the description. And we'll be on tomorrow evening about 7 p.m., I think. So again, final word to you, Paul, before we call it a night.
Don't give up the fight. Don't give up the fight. If anything, fight harder, fight longer. Create a local patriot group. Get your churches involved in learning what's actually happening, because we have too many cowards out there afraid to speak out.
Yeah. As the very wise Rocky Balboa said, you take the hits and you keep moving forward. So good night, guys. God bless. See you soon.
Bye. God bless.